is...
It's taking a couple seconds. It's preparing.
(7:15) on Tuesday, March 24th. So I will call to order the City of College Place City Council meeting. We will be doing roll call. Are you going to do roll call?
Okay, so Councilmember Bobbitt,
Here.
Councilmember Cleveland,
Here.
pause just one moment for a technical issue. Okay. Okay. Councilmember Peterson,
Here.
Councilmember Nienhagen is absent today. Councilmember Selby,
Present.
Councilmember Sherman,
Here.
Councilmember Trope,
Here.
City Administrator Rizzo. He's muted. Oh, he's muted.
Here.
And City Attorney Colwell.
Here.
Okay.
All right, thank you. We do have a quorum. Will we all please stand? It's time for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, for our moment of reflection, let's just all keep in mind the situation that's going on in our country and around the world right now. Keep in mind for calmness and security, and lift up our health workers, our police force, and our fire department who are working overtime, taking care of the community. Okay. Oh, actually, let's also be very grateful for our grocery store workers who are keeping those shelf stocks, working overtime. When we're sleeping, they're hustling it. So please, let's all remember to give thanks to them whenever you see them. Okay, public comment was written this week and nothing was presented to the clerk. So no public comment at this time. Okay, time to consent agenda, which includes approve the agenda for March 24th, 2020, approve the council minutes for March 10th, 2020, approve council special meeting minutes from March 17th, 2020, and excuse the absence of council member Nienhagen.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Was that Sherman and Cleveland?
Yes. So we have a motion and a second. Any items for discussion? All right, hearing none, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Okay, hearing none, the ayes have it. The motion is carried and adopted. Okay, moving on to presentations. Chief Tamaris and Chief Winters going to discuss an update on the COVID-19 response.
Well, if we go alphabetical, I guess Troy's first.
Yeah, hey guys, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, so things are going pretty well. I understand talking to my officers that we haven't had too many issues. The public has been very supportive, and About 8 o'clock at night is when it starts to get really quiet and not a whole lot going on. The daytime, however, as you've probably seen, is a lot different. We still have a lot of people commuting. And you'll see some of the essential jobs that the governor listed. Our community has a lot of those essential jobs: agriculture, gas, grocery stores, food services, health services, emergency response services. So there's still a lot of people in our community that are going to work. We've had a couple of incidents down at Walmart, but for the most part, people have been pretty good. I know that people have felt a little desperate with the increase proclamation from the governor's office. Obviously, it's to slow the progression of this COVID, and it's the right thing to do, but it does cause some anxiety. But it hasn't been too bad for calls for service for our officers. In fact, it's been, knock on wood, it's been a little bit quiet the last couple of days. So we're hoping that continues. Guys are working hard and doing a great job. We're taking every little step we can to protect ourselves. We do have the proper equipment to protect ourselves in the event we have to go into small spaces or even go into a home where someone's affected. We can take the steps to protect ourselves. Shout out to Mr. Peterson for giving us some N95 masks. We really appreciate that. And things are going well. Any questions?
Chief, I have a question. This is Lauren. So with the proclamation, what is your involvement in enforcing that? Is that in that timeline? Is that 8 p.m.? I'm talking about the governor's proclamation. That's 8 p.m. When's the cutoff on that exactly?
I don't have the date or the times in front of me, but it goes until midnight. It goes through April 6th, midnight. And it is enforceable. It is a gross misdemeanor for violating that. We're hoping not to get to that point. And so far, we've gotten compliance from everybody. If you're verbal, we've had a couple of people at the park here recently who were there was a big group. We asked them to dissipate, and they absolutely did. And sometimes people just need that reminder, but it's a change of habit. It's a change of how we live. So it's hard, but it is a gross misdemeanor. And if it came to that, I guess we could take those enforcement actions, but we're hoping we don't have to get to that point.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any other questions for Chief Tamaris? Okay, Chief, I actually have one. With school being out, what is Officer Joey doing to keep himself occupied?
Yeah, Officer Langlois is back on patrol. He's been helping out, and we're grateful to have him in this time of need. So as part of our contract with the school district, in times of emergency, he falls back to patrol.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any others for Chief Tamaris? Okay, Chief Winters.
So as most of you have heard, there is one positive case in College Place. That person is self-quarantined, has been self-quarantined for over a week now. Contracted it in Pendleton from working down there. And we've not had any further cases in College Place. There was a new case in Walla Walla today, but we expected these to start happening. You know, this is an unknown thing that we know is going to affect our community, and these precautionary measures that have been put into place is to slow down that effect so that it doesn't overwhelm healthcare. It doesn't take a lot to overwhelm us in healthcare, because at some point we have our normal patients going into the hospital, and now we're adding this new populace. My understanding is they're going to be reopening General Hospital and use that as an alternate care facility. That is their plan to do that. I have not seen their staffing model to do that. There's only so many nurses, so many doctors in the valley. But when they do that alternate care facility, they also do an alternate care plan, as far as maybe today in normal operations, we have one doctor and 2 nurses per patient. And maybe, and I don't work there, so I'm not saying this, but the concept is maybe there's more patients to nurses or different levels of care just because we're at capacity. And so we have to have that option. As far as workload at the fire station, we have not seen an uptake of more patients. We've actually seen a downturn of people we are taking into the hospital. The theory being is most people don't want to go where they might get sick, so they don't go. And it would be nice if maybe we're learning how to self-regulate a little better, and our patients in the future, even after this, decide maybe they don't need certain levels of care, and we reduce maybe some long-term abuse of the system. As far as the health and well-being of our fire department, we have individuals that live at the fire station, and Mike and I are trying to figure out what do we do with them if someone becomes ill or someone becomes exposed, because some of our volunteers are from Texas and are here for school, and they don't have an alternate place to be quarantined. And being quarantined at the fire station isn't necessarily the best place to be at, where you're going to give that to everyone else around. So we are looking at ways to do that. I know the Tri-Cities area has opportunities for hotels that have offered either their whole building or a floor of their building for first responders at a reduced rate. But we don't obviously have that facility in College Place. So we'll be reaching out to the university to try and see if maybe the alumni, they have, I think, 3 hotel rooms there, or the Whitman Lodge or something like that could be made available, just in case we need to put somebody in quarantine for those 2 weeks, whether they're ill or not, if they were exposed. We do have protective measures in place. We have enough supplies for the immediate future. We have in. We don't have enough if the bell curve, which we're been trying to flatten, takes place. But we do have enough for the immediate future. We have somewhere between 200 and 300 masks for our staff, which we reuse, even though they weren't designed to do that. They can be reused. And we have about that many for patients as well. We have gowns, glasses, all those types of things. My understanding of the state today was that tomorrow they're going to start stocking the top 10 counties first. And that's the top 10 counties that have the highest amount of cases, and then work their way down that list from the order that they're supposed to receive statewide. I don't know whether that means Wednesday we will receive our first allotment. I don't know if that allotment will be enough for absolutely every person that put in an order, or if emergency management is going to have to devise some sort of formula to disseminate what they do receive to the most need. They do know what our need level is. I've seen the list from other county EMS agency providers, and most everybody is okay with the donations that came in, what they had before, and where we've scrounged that we're good for the next few weeks. That's what I know. I'd be happy to answer questions.
Yeah, Lauren here. One thing I'd add, I made a comment earlier, I think it was to the chief. The N95 masks, be sure not to discard them. If they're physically in good shape, do not throw those away. I know that Medline through Providence here will be, I think it's been approved to use UV light to sterilize those and reuse those. So anyway, you may already know that, but I'm just saying, yeah, unless they're damaged, I would hang on to them.
Yep, and there's groups in town that are like having sewing bees and making masks and all that. They're not certified masks because, who's going to certify somebody's sewing project? But I foresee that in some instances, those will be put into use. I don't know where and what level. I don't have guidance on that as of today.
Do we have any other questions for Chief Winter? Okay, well, I'm going to ask a question then.
Sure.
Chief Winter, you said there's enough equipment and supplies. Do we have enough to meet expectations from the hospital of when we deliver a patient that we're meeting their requirements?
So we put a surgical mask on our patient, and the responders wear an N95 mask, which we reuse. So with having 300 masks that we can put on patients, we're good for, roughly 300 patients. And we are currently transporting anywhere between 40 and 50 a month. So without an uptick, realizing some of those wouldn't take masks, we're good for 6 to 8 months on that. If there's an uptick, depending on what that becomes and how much the hospital can take, because at some point they will say, you just need to protect in place, even though they're ill, because we don't have any capacity for them. All those factors will determine how fast we use those masks. I don't know if that helps.
That does. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions or comments for either Chief Winter or Chief Tamaris? Okay. Seeing none. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Appreciate the updates. We're going to move on to action items. First item on the agenda is the Murray water main upsize reimbursement. Mr. Rizzatello.
Okay, thank you. With this agenda item, I introduced it at the last council meeting. Basically, it's a reimbursement for a water line project. So Mr. Mark Murray is developing a smaller subdivision over on Southwest 12th Street. There is vacant land out there beyond his property for future development. His development necessitated around an 8-inch diameter water line. However, to accommodate development which could occur out there, it was advisable to essentially increase diameter size to the 12. And the difference that constitutes that pricing before you is what that difference is between the 12 and the 8. So it's basically reimbursement of that. It's just trying to be proactive and sustainable, because we know there's vacant lands out there, and it's better to get the proper infrastructure in from the get-go than having to rip up a brand new road and do other things as time goes on. So that's all this item is.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Rizzatello? Okay. Seeing none, do we have a motion?
I move that we adopt resolution number 20-10, which authorizes reimbursement of cost differential on installation of oversized water line on Southwest 12th Street.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, let's vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. The motion is carried and adopted. Thank you, Mr. Rizzatello. Okay, next item is a chip sealing contract with Walla Walla County Road Department. Mr. Hartwig.
Well, good evening. We got a price from the county road department for the chip sealing for this year. Again, the chip sealing is smaller because we have other things that we were wanting to get done as well. Chip sealing would include Spitzenberg, all of Spitzenberg, all of Lambert, and all of Della. Just for your information, ahead of that, I'm getting a price from Central Washington to scrub what I call scrub seal the bad areas of Spitzenberg prior to the chip seal, and then they will also seal it so that the chip seal will hold. So, but anyway, right now the county is estimating their project to be roughly $26,000. I put in here for approval of $30,000 because their material costs are an estimate, but they've been pretty good for us. So, any questions?
Okay, no questions or comments? Do we have a motion?
I'd like to motion to authorize the administrator to execute a contract with Walla Walla County for an amount not to exceed $30,000 for the chip sealing of Lambert Avenue, Spitzenberg Street, and Della Avenue.
All right.
Second.
Who was the second?
I'm sorry, who's second?
I did.
Mr. Peterson?
Nope.
Mr. Bobbitt.
Oh, Mr. Bobbitt. Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments? All right, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry, was somebody going to say something?
I just said thank you.
Okay, the ayes have it. The motion is carried and adopted. Thank you, Mr. Hartwig. Okay, next on the agenda is the U.S. Department of Transportation Pipeline Safety Information Grant. Mr. Rizzatello, you're up again.
Okay, thank you. This is just a resolution of support for a grant for about a little north of $99,000. It's through the Natural Gas Pipeline Safety Program that the Federal Department of Transportation has. It doesn't require a match, and what it would do is it would actually pay for a consultant to essentially continually enter in our water and wastewater data into GIS. We have a bit of that, but it's key we get all of it in there, especially before Paul retires, because he knows a lot of stuff about our infrastructure system. Also, it will allow us to purchase survey grade GPS units as well. And just given the fact that we're without an engineering tech right now, this would greatly help us if we get this grant. From what I am hearing, there isn't much competition out for this one because it's based on like zones, and that Williams natural gas pipeline, which is actually what qualifies us, actually dead ends of the regulating station over on a Commercial Drive near Community Bank. So there's very few cities in this area that are applicable to that, and we got a lot of support from emergency management, the pipeline operator, and the city of Walla Walla as well. So there's a good likelihood we'll get this. So this is just a resolution indicating council's support.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Rizzatello? All right, do we have a motion?
I move to approve resolution number 20-011 to support grant application of U.S. Department of Transportation Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration Pipeline Safety Information Grant Program.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Any other discussion items? Okay, hearing none, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. The motion is carried and adopted. Thank you, Mr. Rizzatello. And Mr. Hartwig, you're back with the PLC replacement.
Yes, our plant was built and was constructed and then put online in 1999 and 2000. The PLCs, or programmable logic controllers, were installed at that time, so they're well out of date. They cannot get, well, the parts are not available unless maybe we find them on eBay or something, and then we don't know quality and so forth. Kevin Bubar, or KKB Enterprises, that provided the quote, he has been our IT person out at the plant since it was created and put online, and he's done excellent work for us. He has, what we have is we've got, this is kind of a separate thing from the plant. The actual treatment plant itself, that will be included with the wastewater treatment plant upgrade. So we're trying to get these one-offs here and the re-air basin and the UV done with our own funds right now. If this goes down, we could be in a world of hurt. So this was his estimate to install upgraded and new PLC components, do all the installation for this to run the press building. This is where we press the solids prior to them getting treated. So final treated. So anyway, any questions?
No questions or comments for Mr. Hartwig. All right, hearing none, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to authorize the administrator to execute a contract with KKB Enterprises for an amount not to exceed $40,000 for the replacement of PLCs in the press building at the wastewater treatment plant.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Any other items for discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. The motion is carried and adopted.
Thank you.
Was the second Trope or Peterson?
Who did the second, Mr. Trope or Mr. Peterson?
I think it was Lauren.
Mr. Peterson.
I tried, but I was on mute.
No, I don't know.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Okay, last item on the agenda, Mr. Gordon, regarding the revised city standard specifications.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an item that we were originally going to put on the consent agenda. You folks saw it. We first brought it to your attention on February 25th, and then we were going to put it on the next meeting, but we got a little busy, so we deferred it to this meeting. I actually put it back on the agenda, active agenda, primarily because we added a few more standards we wanted you to take a look at and have an opportunity to weigh in on if you so desire. The update to the standards really has to do with the street section updates that we talked about before. These are fallout from our development standards that you folks approved. We took our parking lot standards out of the old code and we now have them into our standards. So I took the development code and I meshed it, synchronized them with the old parking lot standards. It's effectively the same thing with the modifications that were previously approved, the development code. On the stormwater side, I did add in some of our stormwater designs, we actually create a boundary in the water that flows to our right of way. We want to make real clear because we're not responsible for ecology if it does not pass that boundary and it goes to some other location. So we're including that on drawings, effectively on our standard drawings and on our plats. We're also clarifying that flat work can't be within 10 feet of the boundary or roof drains because we've had problems with water getting to other people's lots into their crawl spaces. But there's exceptions. If you have that water draining to some kind of a storm facility, it's okay. And if you have gutters on your house and they go to a little underground injection control well, which is basically just a little dry well, you can do it. So those are just cautionary measures that we're taking, and we've actually required those kind of as a matter of course in the past, but we haven't had them in our standards. So we're doing that. And then the other thing that I added was we are looking at steep slope standards. We have had some issues at Homestead, as you know, and you're aware. When we get rains, we have some erosion. And so we'd like to be able to put into place some measures to control that a little bit in the future if we have development on slopes. So we're looking at having slopes that you can actually drive out on, you can actually compact, you can actually put down the soil in what we call lifts, compact it, make sure it's in good condition, and then also have storm facilities as a part of that. So they're pretty brief, pretty general, but it gives us at least something that we can take to our developers and say, hey, we need you to help us with the slopes. So that's pretty much all I got. I don't know if there are any questions, Mayor, that you folks might have.
Any questions for Mr. Gordon? Okay. Hearing none, do we have a motion?
I would move to approve resolution number 20-012, approving standards proposed by city engineer in exhibits 2 and 3 of this agenda item.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Any other discussions or questions? Let's vote then. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. The motion is carried and adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. All right, that was the last item on our agenda. Do we have any other business for discussion?
I would just like to say, if you guys need anything from a legal standpoint, as a friend, you can always reach out to me, or if you have anyone that you're acquainted with that needs help with anything, don't hesitate to reach out.
Thanks, Ree.
That's good
Thank
to know.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thanks to Lisa for getting this all set up.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa.
Get well, Lisa.
Thanks to Carolyn and her husband, who's an IT.
Absolutely. All right. If there's nothing more, do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Any other items? All right. The motion is carried. The meeting is adjourned.
Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you
See
all.
everyone later.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. It's not recording anymore, is it? That's what I thought.